Welcome to the Real Double Dose Channel broadcast station, focused on the real reels of real life, love, growth, and of course, elevation within all levels. RDDC is exactly the place where anyone can discover more depth, love, light, and clarity within themselves, and elevate from other people's walks of life, conversations, and questions, along with deeper insights. So tune in and be a part of the Double Doses with Lexus T and RDDC.
Hello, everyone. This is your girl, Lexus T, coming at you straight from the heart where the talk is real. And, I already said the vibe is live. But apart from some clicks of the mouse, I want to say this is probably a 7 to 10 minute segment with Lex. And thank you for tuning in from all avenues that you are, and those new and have been, I don't want to say old, but have been with us for a minute from the start, for almost nearly coming up on a decade now. Yes, it was slow and ugly in the beginning, but we're here now. Now, I want to get to a conversation that's really concise and clear, but I don't know what to name it right now, but we're going to have something within hashtag doubts within truth, or hashtag the doubt of lies, whatever it may be. I can't think of it right now, but you'll see it by the time you click this episode. And I wanted to say happy holidays to everyone, happy blessings. May this year, whether it be 2021 of the feeling that you still have where you're stuck in 2021, this year currently, which is 2024, to every year moving forward, I want to say blessings, peace, and all the joy and fulfillment. But this is a revelation I just had a little while ago, and it didn't end out well for my mother and I. I'm just saying. I'm not going to blame it on her head injury recovery and stuff like that per se. It was just something we got into way before that happened. But it was okay. It just kind of ended off more so me, feeling the feeling of womanhood, if you can remember, like that timing us females understand every month, where you just kind of like, hey, just I don't want to get the cup of water right now. Just give me a second. So it was light, super lightweight, but I know how feisty her Aquariusness will get. But apart from that, I want to say that I was thinking about the conversation, or my mother and I were speaking about the conversation about my sister. And before she passed away, God rest her soul. Always rest in peace, Marciela. But she passed away. I say it's a murder, suicide, murder, in many facets, absolutely, in every facet. And from the coroner's report and from the conversations I had with my friends in the sheriff's department, it definitely was exactly that. So I'm going to say that to say this, though, before leading on to the quote suicide part, please always seek help. Look for the 1-800-SUICIDE hotline number on our website at realdoubledosechannel.com, as well as spiritandmindelevation.com. You can find it as well as Google online. Reach out to us at realdoubledosechannel at yandex.com, or flip the switch at reborn.com. Okay, that's DA switch, flip the switch. And yeah, we will pronto. But ultimately, your life is worth keeping. And those of you who already passed and gone, I suppose, speaking to the ether of no flesh, unfortunately, everything comes to its demise. So let me not get too far off the road here of the conversation, but I had a conversation, I was having one, and then all of a sudden I remember it hit me because it almost felt like a regret feeling, a feeling of just being mad or amplified from the emotions that go on. And I remember I was talking and speaking with my mom about how my sister, probably I would say several months maybe before she passed away, because I was out of town the last time I was supposed to see her, for about a week. And I remember in my stomach, I was hoping that I would see her again, but I kind of knew from that dream vision, or the vision that God gave me a year before she passed away, almost to the date of she was going to pass, where it was going to be, the complete entire layout. Even the time on the clock of when the phone call came was about 5 minutes off. I think it was 3:50 or 3:45. One of them was the one, I think the one in my dream was about 3:45 a.m. And then the real call came in at 3:50 a.m. Yeah, I know. A lot more depth into that later on with different ones. Trust me, when I close my eyes, you never know what reality you're going to get when you wake up. Ultimately, I know my sister was possessed in many ways with demonic forces. people could say different mental illnesses, whatever it might be. Being a nurse at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the world, still for about over a decade or so, maybe 15 years. You know, she took care of the elderly. She took care of people who were sick. She blood draws, blood pressure, changing bed pads, and doing what nurses do. You know, and at the same time, I look at that and I'm thinking, a lot of my nurse friends will say, and different memes or notes or conversations I've heard from other nurses as well, like they don't seem to take care, nurses don't seem to take care of themselves, but they take care of other people. And there's some people who have it really hurtful in their hearts to be not the so nicest person, but that otras cosas así, okay? I'm gonna say other things like that. So I'm gonna say that to say we have dealt with the spiritual battle our entire journey, from me seeing exorcisms done, spiritual revelations done, different things, and even seeing who I believe was the depiction of what I knew as a child as Christ standing right by me in the church pews at church. It's just so many things happening that most people can't fathom. Most people wouldn't believe because they can't believe it for themselves, let alone they have that intertwining of deep connection to even see any kind of spiritual beings. And to them, it's just quote black and white, or a tree in a car, or the street and the mailbox. It's just they choose to stay in that bubble, and some of them are meant to stay there so we can find our way through them in different ways. Ultimately, I remember she had came to me in my bedroom at the time at the family home. And my sister was looking and she kind of woke me up, and it was kind of frightful. I didn't hear her come in. Of course, I was passed out sleeping. I was tired from work, I believe. And I remember she stood there, and I remember when I woke up, I was such in a ignorant stir, I would say. Even though I had my spiritual death in California and everything, I was such in a weird stir from it. I just, you know, she woke me up and she was like almost standing over me, and her eyes looked so empty and so bright. They just looked like these large, hollow hazel capsules. And she was moving her hands around her body almost like a snake, and she just couldn't stand still. And she was almost acting like she had like little, snakes or bugs on her skin. She was trying to like rub off, but it wasn't like, oh, get it off of me. It was more like oh, I feel it was like, it's like almost like she was 4 or 5 entities feeling her. Have you ever seen those movies? I'm not sure if it was in one of those other ones. Maybe The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. They had that towards the ending or whatever it was when he started to see things after his wife passed away in the movie. No endorsement, but this is still a heavy hitter. The statues and the paintings and the wall and the behind him were actually moving and like touching and like kind of rubbing all over themselves, where it was just something, you can't get it out of your mind. So she was going through that. And I remember she had touched herself and moving. It wasn't like a derogatory just standing there doing it. It was just her moving, like she just felt something all over her skin she couldn't get off. And she was like, oh, help me. There's something. And I was so worried, like a jerk. I mean, at the time I'm thinking about it, about, hey, I don't know where your hands have been, because she was trying to touch my face and like touch on me. And I also knew spiritually though, when those things inhabit you, they're trying to touch you with different things. So I remember I grabbed her wrist and her hands and I was trying to tell her, hey, I'm an OCD kind of sanitary kind of person. So of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, what's going on? I don't care if it was a dirty shoe outside. It was just kind of like I was, woken up from it in the middle of the night and not knowing what was going on. I was already feeling exhausted and kind of like tweaking out what was happening. Anyway, it was her trying to get away from her abusive, thank God, no more dealing with her wannabe husband. Mentally abusive, verbally abusive, sometimes physical abusive still. So I looked at that and I remember I had walked with her to the living room. And she had got to a point to where she had walked over and she had seen, we were vexed with centipedes. Minnesota, I'm just saying, it wasn't like vexed like that, it wasn't like all over. You could see one. I see one like maybe once every 6 months or something like that. But I guess she thought she saw one or whatever it was. And she was like, oh, I saw a centipede, just kind of freaking out. And I'm thinking, what happened, to my sister? Where is this fierce Capricorn? What happened? Like, I didn't believe, even though I knew it, but I grew up with exorcism. I grew up with things I saw jump out of other people. and jump out of my breath, jump into different people. I've seen things happen. I couldn't believe from that spiritual death. I almost felt wrong because I knew I felt so corrected in what I was that I didn't remember where it came from and the strength of what I knew of what I've been experiencing. Maybe that's where the kind of deer in headlights kind of came from, where I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I remember she said she felt so faint when she walked over by the front door that she thought she was going to pass away. She said, am I going to die? Am I going to die? I feel like I'm going to die. And I thought to myself, oh, it hurts. Excuse me. It hurts because when you know what you are spiritually, it's hard to see what that is and know that you didn't become what you want. And I do now. I see it now where I'm like, the devil was testing me to test me from the spiritual death I had from everything that I knew I was, but everything in abuses in life taught me that I wasn't, or the feeling of non-love taught me that I wasn't. And even though I ascended past that spiritual death, I still didn't know who I was powerful enough to be. And that's a conversation for Truth Seekers Mastermind Alliance, where I'm going to be speaking about that hopefully with Hector. And it's just basically who you are called to be. You know, I'm not saying it's a Harry Potter moment or anything of the sorceries, but when we stay in a place of stagnancy to learn at our pace or skip through things in life or make things in life turn a certain way so we can ignore them, we get to a point to where we start getting to the levels of taking our time. And I thought to myself, if I had gotten to the degrees of what I knew I was and where I'm at now, even though the power of God and Christ Jesus that I feel inside of me, I would have been able to subdue those spirits inside of her. I do believe, but I was in such dismay and disbelief that the spiritual death was more so of my wisdom and knowledge instead of the power that I held therefore. I knew that I had it, but I always looked at it in different kind of lower pretenses from the people that I've never really seen exercise the powers on the level where I believed that they could, but I didn't realize they were just trying to fake the funk at the time or thinking that they knew, but I knew they didn't know anything to that cusp. And I asked my mom, how come, as far as her spiritual vibration, born with the veil over her face, born as a seer, and I know it was passed down to me, obviously. Um, her child, I know for me, I know her children, it was sent to me. Not saying that other people can't have prophetic sorry, I'm sniffling, but it is what it is, that they can't have that, but prophetic messaging or visions, but I have the deep inner cusp of what that is. And I thought, man, my sister came to us, especially me. Even those things inhabiting her came to us or came to me, not those things, but she did. And she didn't wake my mom up on her sleep. She came to get me. And she felt so strongly of what I was and knew who I was that I couldn't see it myself. That's what bothers me. I couldn't feel it. I was doubting within the truth. And I had no faith within my doubts. And I know you might say, well, of course, without doubts, you don't have faith. But at the same time, no, you still can hold faith, but then not have the doubt, or you still can have doubts about other things, but hold the faith. That's where it was. Completely. I didn't give myself the chance to realize what I was. I was still on that journey and I was still thrown into a family dynamic of trying to understand everything that it is and learning from the quote guru that you learn from and what spiritual attributes you have that still will not unveil. I'm saying for my mother, she wouldn't kind of unleash that part of her too, almost like she was scared of her power. Maybe I should call this Don't Be Afraid of Your Power, part one. Maybe that's what it is instead of the faith and the truth. Afraid of power. And I understand you have to understand your fasting and your meditation, your prayer life. You have to have a strength with God before you go attack invisible forces, or not attack, but be ready to have your sword and shield apart from where God has put the battlefield already there. But just knowing that her little beady eyes at the point were so hollow, I looked at myself and I said, I know she's gone, Lord. I know my sister's gone and only you can bring her back. See, my sister was dead to me, even animated several months. I think I saw the dream after that time, if I'm not mistaken. But my sister was about dead to me at that point because I didn't see any life force in her. I just saw her animated, but she was so filled with that possession. It almost reminded me of Emily Rose, the movie, or Emily Rose, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, in different ways. Maybe not as extreme as some cuss, but we really don't know. Her teeth had got brittle, her skin, she had got so tiny. I mean, she was just the living dead and the walking around the living while she was dead. It had ravished her where she couldn't eat, she couldn't think, and no medication of depression and all the pills that the doctors gave her that's they did in the movie with Emily Rose. It couldn't help her because it was God that needed to do so. And if it was God to put me on where I needed to go, just like Emily Rose had stated in the movie in her diary, that it was for people to know that the devil was real because then they would believe in God. So I look at that and I think everything happens for the good of what God will make it. And God doesn't have to miss us in a human form because we're the breath that's walking around that God gave us. God has the ultimate connection to all creation. So we miss them because we can't mingle with them or see them down the street or be a part of them. But I'm tearing up so bad. It's hard. I want you all to connect and understand whatever it may be. I don't know what you're going to get from this because there's different hearts and ears from all across the world listening. I don't know what you're going to take from this, but I will say that do not doubt the power. Doubting the power, afraid of your power. That's something that I never want you to feel. I don't know if I would have went in all the way, would I had been ready for the battle itself, because I'm 10 times better now since that 2018 and all the things that happened. I've always had to play second or third fiddle for everyone. I had to be the last of five, but act as the first of five, and many other things. But it made me feel a conversation of regret, made me feel that what I have. And because of that, like I also didn't think the clarity. And it's good to seek knowledge. And I hope you do sign up for Lex Effect mentorship, coaching, anything that we have on YouTube, or just understanding. It's not about the investment, it's about you. And even hearing the things for free, which we already have 90% of. It's about being able to unleash that so you can be there to prevent and help things that are supposed to be there. Also for you to have the revelation revealed on what your strength is and what you can do. I can't go back and give my sister life again in a physical form. And she visited me about a day after she passed away and told me she was free and set free. But it bothers me, even as a little baby sister, the last of five, that I couldn't be there to be the medicine she needed. And maybe I was, when I spent time and touched her back and tried to be there for her, but I selfishly saw myself as that little kid trying to be little baby sis, trying to get her back to familiarity so she could be my strength instead of looking at the strength I was so I could become hers. I need you all to understand, do not doubt the power that you have and do not misuse it. You can't abuse what God gives you because God has the ultimate say so, but you can misuse it. Very, very unfortunate. And you could also doubt it so much that it becomes weak for the adversary to let you know, hey, you didn't believe in you enough, but I knew you were strong enough. And that's why I was making sure you felt the doubt. Will we stop doubting the power there is? Just like Jesus said in the Bible. You corrupted people. Out of all the things that go on in life, out of all the corruption that's there in life, we seem to grab onto that more than anything. And in Matthew 17:17, from the NLT version, the New Living Translation, says, Jesus said, you faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. And when we get that conversation, we think, God says, if you want to see. If you have the faith, have. And if I would have held on to more than just having this insight of knowledge, like I bit some kind of different fruit, I felt that. So maybe it's a conversation of regrets you can learn from. Maybe it's the understanding of, hey, don't doubt your power. Don't be afraid of what you really can do. And even if you don't feel like you're prayed up throughout life, you can call on the name of Christ, Jesus. You can claim on the name of Yeshua, the mighty power of God to ascend his angels, whatever it might be connected to the Father of all things, the creator of all things. Revelation will happen. I looked at that as so much honor that my sister gave me to say, I know whatever you have, I feel okay in it. She felt okay in it. And I was kind of tending to her like more of a sick person and having a nurse kind of mentality. But I didn't realize the medicine I had was through what she couldn't tap into at the time outwardly because she was so ravished by the spirits and weakness and medication that was telling her she was going to be okay, malnourishing her. I couldn't do it. She was still watching over her 2 children. So I regret to say that I didn't cast out the full power of what I was to do, but I needed more backup. And not having a strong kinship or having the people around you that you need are also very important. Because if I would have had people on their tens and toes who know this kind of world, and I know who they are, backing it up and having more of that to it instead of the fake Christianity or the fake faces that they think spirituality is, we would have did a hell of a job. We would have done so much more. And I think that also made her feel like, hey, from this suicidal point, I can't even look at the people I'm with who talk about these things all the time. Not me, but those. And some of that cliched on me because I didn't know the power because thereof. I didn't see the people who claim to have that power induce the power, put it out there. I would make me feel like, man, there's no hope here because we know things happen through the humanity from God. He works through us. So we see a blockage point to where we can't get no help from the people that we grew up around who say that the power is there. Then we all ultimately will feel like we're helpless. So she surrendered her life. And the murdering part that happened from the others in her life that helped the suicide part become more prominent. She let herself go to God because she felt no other way to go. She felt no other way to be but released to God. I hope you catch that. In the moment of silence, I say, she felt no other way to be released from this world through his helpers than to submit and remit her spirit to God. Now, I don't care what anyone says about suicide or how they feel or if it's wrong or if it's right. Everyone has an understanding of what they're doing at the time, even if it makes sense to us or not. I do not encourage it. Absolutely. But that's the steps that happened for my sister to be gone. And I hope and I pray that I can have forgiveness from her and my Father in heaven for what I did not know at the time and what I was too afraid to seek out in that moment. So if you have a chance to be there for someone, speak up for someone, become the powerfulness, even if you feel it. I don't mean jumping in front of someone like a bulletproof vest and just doing what you do. I'm saying common sense here. To speak up, to dig deeper and ask questions, to see what's going on in that home when you see someone showing up looking like they're abused, to see a child showing and displaying things and not taking, oh, I'm okay, mom, or it's okay, teacher, or whatever else. Digging deeper into self and realizing what you're doing and don't get so caught up in what you believe someone else's power is versus what God gave to you. Hashtag don't fear your power. This is part 1, and I want to go in deeper. I can't apologize for the emotions I'm displaying because it's coming from the heart. It's coming from one of you right now sitting here, and I got out here as soon as I could and cut my conversation short. First time I really have done this in a long time. I came here to give the message to one of you deeply. And no matter if this reaches 100 people or 5 people, it still has the 1 = 1 million effect. And that's all I care about. The Lex effect is from God's effect. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the carrier. I'm just the one to teach it. But the information I teach is from the creator of all things. Hashtag do not fear your power. Don't fear your power. Don't fear what you can be, even if it's praying over someone or rebuking the essence thereof or helping them get to that journey or becoming. And I know conditions happen, trauma happens, and we all get that blockage point. I can't blame myself all the way. But if I was as deep as I was now in the journey, I would have been able to see it back then. It's almost like it's this reality of the unmatricized mind, and the spirit world comes in, and being who I am, highly vibrational, it makes it that much more deeper and strange. But I will tell you, just I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Might be a part 2 coming up later on here. But I want to say I'm going to put part 1 because hashtag don't fear your power is a lot more than just this. But I wanted to share this from my heart with you. And I pray that any of you who hear this right now will feel what I'm trying to pass on to you, will feel all the emotions that are going on, and look at the times where you may have fallen from that fearful of powerfulness in your moment. Not to be a vigilante, but to be vigilant of your own situation and other people's, and be a voice for them. And from the Huahia, from how I grew up with the nations, the 3 nations of what I understand even more, but from the Choctaw to the Cherokee, from the Cree, from different ones that I've learned, being able to be those things, from the Colombian fire, from the attributes of my ancestors. I feel all those things go in, and you have to understand where those things come from inside of you. You have to become the power thereof. And maybe I'll speak about that on the next conversation about ancestry, moving on and forward. But one day is for sure and for certain for all of us, which used to be scary for me. But I mean, a lot of us didn't understand we can't escape death unless God lets us escape the quote ending of it. But all of us are going to see and inhabit the same things that are coming for us when it comes down to our last breath, whether that be the next life or the next chapter within God, or doing what we do. You know, we do have that. I will see her in the spirit world like I always do recently. But you know, with the spirit world, everyone knows you can't always just tap in. And I'm not into necromancy. I'm just saying we're not calling and conjuring upon anything. I give me what God gives. I get a chance to taste what God gives me. Taste and see that the Lord is good and great, I must say. So this is your host, Lex. More than that, I wanted to send this over to you. My eyes are so watery right now. I can't see anything. But I'm happy that I got a chance to share it with you all. And maybe there'll be even more. I'm gonna see if I can maybe get maybe something on some social media to kind of help with other people to be able to relate to that. But if you want to share, if you want to leave comments, I encourage that all the time, but it's always what your heart will desire to do as well. So remember to be the change, feel the passion, embrace the power of the spirit, truly, of what God is trying to instill and call upon and within us all. And we will be back with you very, very soon. I love you.